So the show is going on a brief medical-related hiatus, and while I'm still working on future episodes, my recording schedule has been pushed back a couple of weeks. My hope is to return in time for Musical May, and I might have some stuff like this pop up between now and then. But the regularly scheduled weekly shows are going to be on hold for a little while. But I thought it would be fun to share some of what I'm reading and listening to as sort of a supercharged recommendation section. Some of these may return for their own episodes, but really they're just things that I thought were worth sharing. These are in no particular order, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. I've been jotting things down, and at some point it may just be better to split this in half, but we'll see. And these will all be listed, of course, in the show notes as well. So, of course, we like to end every episode with a book recommendation and a film recommendation, or start, I suppose. Something that I've really enjoyed so far is Daniel Dockery's Monster Kids, which is a cultural history of Pokemania in the US. Daniel's going to be on the show later this year to talk about his upcoming book on Batman, the animated series, and I will be genuinely shocked if we don't talk about Pokemon as well. It doesn't hurt that I also started playing Leaf Green again on Switch. And then I kind of go back and forth on whether generations are real or not. Like human generations, not Pokemon generations. But Daniel writes about not only his personal experience with Pokemania, but also includes a lot of other people in our age range. And it is kind of amazing to me how culture can create these shared experiences for people all over the world. And of course, I've already demonstrated my Pokemon bona fides on the Pop Culture Basement podcast. Mike's show is a lot of fun. I was so honored to appear twice on it already, talking about Pokemon with him and Ryan last year, and then again this season to cover Rush. It's always a blast talking to him, and I'm looking forward to one or more returns in the future. I also have an upcoming appearance on the Your Favorite Bad Movie podcast. That show is a riot. Look, there are a lot of people who do the shows on cheesy movies angle, but honestly, very few do it right. I like that with this, they always set up the guest with, well, if it's so bad, then why do you like it? Which is, I think, a great sort of approach to that kind of a topic. I'll be honest, I have a real stinker in store for them, so that should be a lot of fun. Two other shows I want to highlight when it comes to history on film, Cold War Cinema and Moving Histories. Cold War Cinema looks at films from that period, of course, but they alternate between American and Soviet films, which is brilliant. I will admit that after Eisenstein, my familiarity with Soviet film is a little spotty, so I'm always especially eager to learn more about those episodes. Plus, one of the hosts is our friend, Paul Klein. Moving Histories is another fantastic program, and if you like what I do on my show at all, then you will absolutely love Moving Histories. They cover a wide range of everything. And thank you to Andrew over at the Revisionist Almanac. I did not keep up with the Oscars race at all this year. I felt kind of bad about it, and then I was like, oh wait, I do historical movies. I don't have to know about these for 20 years. But the Revisionist Almanac sort of kept me in the loop for what to watch for when I get to them in a couple of decades. Another book that I've been reading that I've really enjoyed so far is Justin Rawlins's book, Imagining the Method. With all the work that I do on 50s film, method acting comes up quite a lot, and sort of parsing that through the anxieties of the period, uh, Justin's book is really incredible. I'm going to be speaking with him about it later this season, and I'm really looking forward to it. It lines up really well with another book I've been reading, and Megyn Kelly's Projections of Passing, Post-War Anxieties in Hollywood Films. I'm just using it for the chapter on juvenile delinquency, which you'll hear more about in a couple of weeks. But something that Kelley emphasizes throughout is just how much angst and anxiety was present in film in this period. And the sanitized version of that era that the right wing longs for is really the product of television and marketing more than any realistic understanding of what life was like. I'm certainly not the first person to say that, but I believe the person who said it best is probably Stephanie Coontz in her book, The Way We Never Were, American Families, and the Nostalgia Trap. That's one that's been reprinted a few times, and it's certainly worth revisiting or reading for the first time in 2026. I think the three of those together really sort of identify a lot of 1950s anxiety that we don't necessarily see translated through a lot of work from that period. But Justin's book talking about Dean and Brando and sort of what method acting is and where it comes from, and how that is a legacy of that anxiety that we don't really think about anymore. But so those three books I sort of mentally clumped together and wanted to talk about.
You're tearing me apart! You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
One of the most popular episodes of my show this season was my talk with Chris DeVille about 2000s indie rock and his book Such Great Heights. And in addition to talking about music and MySpace, I connected his work to the study of the history of technology. I want to share one of my other absolute favorite history of technology books, because like Coontz's book, it is a bit of an older one, but I feel like it has a lot of important resonance with the current moment. And that's Ruth Schwartz Cowan's More Work for Mother, The Ironies of Household Technology, from the Open Hearth to the Microwave. She looks at how advances in technology and industrialization intensified the gendered division of labor rather than easing it, and sort of heightening these contradictions between men's work and women's work. It's a fantastic book. It's not nearly as dry as some of the other history of technology books that I've read, believe me. And in terms of 2000s culture, relating back to Chris, I would also recommend Colette Shade's Y2K. It's a collection of essays that runs the gamut of pop culture and politics from that period. But what makes it such a great book is that she zeroes in on how 9/11, the global war on terror, and the Great Recession undermined the vision of the future that was present during the end of history 90s. It's similar to my conversation with Dr. Joseph Kellner about what happened a decade or so earlier in the Soviet Union, where the collapse of the system didn't just radically alter the present, it radically altered the way we think about the future. And then I'll connect that to another podcast that I really enjoy, and that is Remember Shuffle, which is all about deep dives on 2000s culture and how it echoes in our current moment. Ben and Giordano are great hosts. They put a tremendous amount of research into what they do, and they always find these really great through lines connecting their topics to broader contemporary issues, even when you don't really expect them to be able to pull it off. They always do. There are two other great books I want to recognize before I wrap up, but I don't really have a good segue for them. The first is Juan Llamas Rodriguez's book on Y Tu Mamá Tambien, which dives into the film itself as well as its robust legacy, both in Mexico and globally. I was familiar with the movie because I do have a background in Latin American history, but I didn't realize how much of its popularity has endured and has been picked up by new generations of viewers. Also, Paul Gagliardi's All Play and No Work, American Work Ideals and the Comic Plays of the Federal Theater Project. I am a real sucker for any kind of history on New Deal programs, and what I think is so great about this one is it basically revolves around humor during one of the most challenging times in American history, the Great Depression, and sort of what people found funny during this time and what makes that so insightful. Paul is going to be on the show to talk about the book, as well as the most precocious New Dealer of them all, Little Orphan Annie, during Musical May.
Who's that little chatterbox, the one with pretty auburn locks? Whom do you see? It's little Orphan Annie. She and Sandy make a pair, they never seem to have a care. Cute little she, this little Orphan Annie.
Last but not least, I don't do ads, but I do want to mention some of my regular weekly reads and watches. The Cold War TV on YouTube is fantastic. David does amazing work on his show, and as someone focused on the Cold War myself, I think the scope and scale of that show is just tremendous. And it always invigorates me to learn more, about whatever topic he's talking on that week. On a totally different note, Stumble on NBC is the funniest news show I've watched in a while. It just finished season 1, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. And make sure to check out Means TV. You can use promo code Chris Bell to get 10% off a subscription, or use the code History on Film Podcast to get an error message. And if you like this little bonus episode today, you can get something just like this every single week over on Black and White and Red All Over. Former guests Ben Railton and Vaughn Joy have so much cool stuff happening over there, including the Scholar Sunday series, where you can learn about all kinds of great public history projects. And while I don't get any money for this show, wait, why don't I get any money for this show? Anyways, if you're looking for someone named Ross to give money to, then check out Ross Shepard, who is running for Georgia State House. My close friend and colleague, Ryan Barr, is working on his campaign, and I told him I would proudly spread the word. You can check out his website, rossforga.com, to volunteer your time or money. I know either one is appreciated. And figure out how you can get involved in your local races, too. The thing about this crazy moment that we're in that gives me hope is how many people seem to want to get included and get activated. And I just hope that you're able to find a way to get involved and stay involved. Anyway, thank you for listening to the show. We will be back soon-ish. And in the meantime, go back and check out some of the earlier episodes you may have missed. And while I don't say this a lot, leave a rating and a nice review. I'd appreciate it.